During my time here on YouTube, I've seen many comments in the same vein as these, asking the question, why is it that modders can make so much content compared to what the developers of the game add in each update? The commenters' tone often seems to be one of bewilderment as to how so much modded content is available in comparison to the pace at which the Minecraft game updates over time. This question has no one answer that satisfies everyone, and this video could never achieve a definitive point of view on the comparison between the two. In my opinion, it's like comparing apples and oranges, two things that resist a fair comparison when put side by side. What I can do with this video is offer perspectives, things you may not have considered before about modding and the vanilla game. I've learned a lot in my 10 plus years as a part of the Minecraft community and believe with this knowledge I can shed light on the differences between the two. I've spent a lot of time considering all the topics we are about to cover, and ultimately it will be up to you to take this information, consider it with your own, and come to your own conclusions on the matter. And before we go any further, I want to make it clear I have nothing but warmth for the many Minecraft modders and the Mojang team. After all, they are all contributing to the Minecraft experience with both coding and creativity. They have all given us their time and skills to make Minecraft a wonderful game we all enjoy. So let's compare apples to oranges then. On the one hand, we have a team of employees inside a corporate structure. Although it's not just one team, the game is of course developed across multiple platforms by many different teams. There are also PR, sales and marketing departments, essentially a lot of people and moving parts that have to be coordinated up and down the chain of command within Mojang. It is a business after all, and the development of Minecraft ties in with long-term goals and objectives that often ends up pandering, excuse the pun, to targeted demographics of potential players with their newly added content. When it comes to the modders, well, this is an incredibly broad demographic, and there are way more modders than programmers at Mojang, as practically anyone can contribute to the modding scene, one of its unique attributes. Often it will be individual coders with a passion adding their own ideas into the game. Sometimes it's teams of developers working together for free on a shared vision, and in rarer cases it can even be a job with donations and PayPal contributions funding their modding efforts. The key takeaway here is how different these are structurally and how that defies comparison. It's going to be a common theme here. Have you considered that Mojang has many responsibilities the modding scene cannot guarantee for each of its mods? Some mods end up abandoned over time, whereas Minecraft continues to be developed and supported on its many platforms. And hardware configurations too for the PC players out there. As a YouTuber covering the game's development cycle and long lists of bug fixes, I've seen a lot of fixes related to specific hardware problems, and bugs are also frequently fixed for obscure update conditions where minor details from an old version of Minecraft stop the game updating successfully. This is one of Mojang's many less obvious priorities, to make sure every returning player can update their world from previously released versions to the very latest. This, along with pursuing parity among its many platforms, produces long lists of bug fixes and changes, all minor details the average player would barely notice, yet took many efforts to produce. These are just some examples of corporate standards that the modders have no obligation to meet. The modding scene is like the Wild West. Anything goes, you get what you get. Modders don't have to offer compatibility, are not obliged to fix bugs, or support previous versions. But that alone misses the point. In this free and open environment, quality thrives. The cream of the crop rises to the top, as they say, and despite no baked-in assurances of quality, compatibility, or stability, the efforts of many programmers come together to offer these things for the love of the game. The modding community has merits that again defy comparison between the two. Much of what's created gets published with open source licenses, allowing others to make their own modification to the mods themselves, or borrow the code for something else. Because of this, those abandoned mods I mentioned tend to get picked up by new developers when the old ones get bored, or at least the better mods that deserve preservation do. This communal ethic manifests wonderfully with the creation of mod packs. Behind the scenes, modders do additional work to make sure their own mods are compatible with the others. This takes a lot of communication, coordination, and the standardizing of practices, as you can imagine. Because anyone can get involved in modding, there is an absolute abundance of mods available, and if you've had an idea for something you'd like to see in the game, chances are it already exists. You'll just have to search around, and fingers crossed you'll get what you were looking for. Modding does have some legitimate drawbacks though, and first I should point out that the modded players are a small demographic of the overall player base. Java Edition is not the most popular version, and the barrier to entry is made worse by the beefy hardware requirements. Large amounts of RAM are required to play mod packs, which clump together large bases of code to make the things happen. It's not the most elegant of solutions, but since modding requires some technical know-how to get running, it tends to appeal to the types with beefy hardware to begin with. For the uninformed, it's a considerable barrier to entry, downloading obscure executables to patch in modified versions of the game. This is, however, made easier with the assistance of modpack launchers, but even then, diagnosing issues and errors is a common headache. If you've played a modpack, you'll know to make regular backups of your world. Once you get it running, you tend to leave it alone. But going back to the point on demographics, modded is enjoyed by far more than the players alone. The indirect experience of YouTube Let's Plays is another big component that lets fans seize the very best of modded, when it works, which is most of the time, to be fair. So we have established that the landscape and environment for the vanilla game and its modded counterparts are rather different to begin with. Let's now get away from the technical and communal aspects. Let's talk about creativity and ideas. Mojang takes the lead here, preserving the so-called vanilla experience in the eyes of its massive audience. They update the game tentatively and cautiously, not wanting to make wild and drastic changes to the game's core. I've seen this philosophy unfold over the years with mixed results, but from watching the official Minecraft YouTube channel's video interviews with the development team, it is clear that a lot of thought goes into their efforts. Not just the ideas themselves, but consideration for accessibility, compatibility, and the other teams, including marketing and promotion. Mojang develops a single version of the game at a time and has to get all of their decisions right. Once a feature is in the game, it is very rare for it to be removed later on. Modders, on the other hand, are known for backporting features, developing their creations for multiple versions at a time. But the creative difference is the ability to just fill in the gaps, jump into the existing game with nothing but the limits of their imagination. Want to add in your favourite Pokemon? Then there is a mod for that. It's called Pixelmon. No worries about how it affects the vanilla experience are required, or legal issues for that matter. This is of course part of the beauty of modded. You're able to add in entirely new and different experiences, because modded is a choice. A player can pick the changes that appeal to them. Can you imagine the reaction if Mojang were to suddenly add Pokemon to Minecraft? I doubt it would go down too well. Now before we continue with the video, I'm going to do what YouTubers do and ask you to subscribe. I mean, if you've watched this much of the video, you're probably enjoying it and you might want more. So hit that subscribe button to catch future videos, and now let's get back to this one. Interestingly, the Mojang devs have commented on occasion how they try to avoid doing what Minecraft mods have done before them. Considering the absolute abundance of mods out there, it's pretty impressive they have been able to come up with alternative solutions. The crafting book is quite the elegant alternative to the big JEI menus. Pillagers, Dripstone Caves, the LA, Amethyst Geodes, Basalt Deltas, Guardians, all really cool additions that go in a different direction from what you would see with modded. And lastly, the Warden. What a terrific idea to bring horror into the game, a mob you actually want to avoid, although I think having it drop an item as a reward for killing it was a mistake. Let's take a moment to praise modded too. This stuff doesn't have to fit into the vanilla game, and that has birthed a ton of cool experiences too. What about the Skyblock mod packs where from a single tree one can grind out a whole world of crazy contraptions and automated farms? Then there's the beautiful alternative dimensions one can explore. You can bring programming itself straight into the game with Computercraft, or build a Rube Goldberg machine with the mechanical automation found in the Create mod packs. And if you're just looking for a little fun, then there's mutant mobs or lucky blocks to play with. The possibilities are endless. Next, I want to touch on another sentiment that I've seen in many comment sections. Why does Java development take so long? Well, I've made it clear already, it's a big coordinated effort taking place among multiple teams with multiple objectives and quality assurances to be met. In comparison, one can log on to a website like CurseForge and see a seemingly endless list of new mods to play. With such a vast array of talent, there is more unrestricted time and creativity to contribute. Not to mention these mods simply add on top of the existing game, piggybacking on the code Mojang has already written, like rendering and network systems or the world generation. Modders do not have to maintain this code, whereas Mojang have to build all of their features from scratch, and make sure they all behave properly too. It creates an obscure perspective. Not all of these mods are equal in quality, creativity, or size. They simply don't compare to the role Mojang takes in stewarding the game for all its vast player base. We tend not to hold a large list of mods in equal comparison to the long list of features, changes, and bug fixes Mojang has produced over the years too. Imagine reading through all the Minecraft changelogs for each and every update. It would take a very long time. Anyways, I've digressed, but I do think I've made my point clear. So before we arrive at some sort of conclusion, I wanted to share with you something really interesting about the Mojang bug testing methodology. You see, they have these special testing worlds that have large arrays of tests for specific gameplay behavior. When loaded, the in-game blocks and command technology detects if various mechanics works as intended. Based on the result, a beacon beam changes color to indicate success or failure. There is also a lectern on location describing what the test is for. It's really cool how the game's own components are used to test other parts of the game. Each time they make some changes, they can fire up one of these worlds to see if it's affected anything else. So, on to the conclusion. Hopefully I've made it clear the ecosystems and objectives of Mojang and the modding scene are wildly different. They also complement each other. It's fantastic that we can have both and experience this game in many different forms. After all, modding is often illegal for most games, but thanks to Mojang's stance on mods, it's allowed to flourish alongside the main game. In essence, these two shouldn't be seen as in competition with one another, as if there was some sort of race and one was in the lead. I'd also like to give some serious praise to the modding platforms like Fabric, Forge, Spigot and PaperMC. There's many more too, but projects like these do the unglamorous job of creating a stable platform for the other mods and code to come together and create the cool stuff you experience in game. They are naturally underappreciated, like the electrical grid for example. You flick a switch and the light comes on. Behind that convenience is a marvel of unseen engineering. So the conclusion, as I said, comparing the two, it's like comparing apples and oranges. Why pick one when you can have both? Anyways, time to wrap it up. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to catch more videos, and I'll see you soon with another one.